My fiance said, "Your sister's hotter, but you're more stable." So I called my sister, printed the texts, and showed up to their secret dinner in white with a lawyer. I should have walked away when he said my sister was hotter. I should have walked when I caught him staring too long at her bikini photos during our family lake trip last summer. When he laughed too hard at her jokes. When he'd low-key compare us, always under the guise of compliments, like, "You're more grounded, though. You'd make a great mom," like I was the consolation prize. The reliable model he settled on after test driving the one he really wanted. But I didn't, because I thought that's what love was. Choosing someone even when they don't sparkle the way others do. Even when they make you feel plain. God, I was such a fool. I'm 28. My name's Lindsay. I work in event design. The irony of planning beautiful, romantic spaces for strangers while my own life was rotting from the inside, not lost on me. My fiancé, well, ex-fiancé now, I guess. His name is Dylan, 31. Charming in that overly eager way that makes you suspicious if you've ever been burned before. The kind of guy who makes waitresses laugh too long and always has a funny story about his exes. Red flags I treated like rose petals. And then there's Claire, my younger sister, 25th blonde, gym bod. Charisma that walks in 10 seconds before she does. She's one of those girls you want to hate but can't because she's disarmingly nice. At least, she was. Until I learned just how far that charm stretches when no one's watching. I'd spent the last 6 months planning our wedding. The Pinterest boards, the vendor calls, the dress fittings. Meanwhile, Dylan was planning something else, or rather, someone else. And that someone wore my bloodline and my middle name. The first crack? 2 weeks ago. I came home from a dress consult. Exhausted, but excited. Showed him a photo. Lace. Simple. Elegant. I looked happy. He looked disappointed. He barely glanced up from his phone. "It's nice," he said. "Very you." And then, like it was nothing, he muttered, "Your sister would probably pull off something flashier. But this is more stable. More stable." I froze. "What?" I asked, already knowing. He didn't even look guilty. Just shrugged. "Relax, it's a compliment. You're grounded. You'd make a great partner. Claire's fun, but you're solid. Solid. Like a sedan. Not a single word about beauty, or love, or desire. Just stability. Like I was a savings account. I didn't fight him. Didn't scream. I nodded. Smiled even. Then I excused myself to the bathroom. And that's when I opened his iPad. I wasn't snooping. Not really. It lit up when I passed by. And there she was. Claire. Her name. A message preview. "Dinner's still on tonight. Can't wait to wear what you picked." My blood went ice cold. I tapped in. No password. And there it was. Weeks of texts. Compliments. Inside jokes. "You're always the one who got away." Pictures. Pictures. He called me stable while telling my sister she was dangerous. While planning secret dinners. And that was when something inside me snapped. I didn't cry. Not then. I didn't scream or throw things or wake him up. I took a screenshot. Printed every text, every flirty message, every photo she sent. Then I called Claire. She didn't pick up, so I called again. And again. Until she finally answered with a chirpy, "Hey." I was calm. Too calm. "I know everything," I said. "Enjoy your dinner tonight. I'll be there too." And then I called a lawyer. Because if they wanted to play dirty, I'd show up spotless. In white. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't cry either. My body felt electric, like grief had short-circuited, and now all I had left was a kind of still, vibrating rage. I lay in bed beside Dylan. Yes, beside him, while he slept peacefully, snoring slightly, completely unaware that I'd just printed out his infidelity on 32 pages of text messages. Pages I'd carefully hole-punched and slid into a pristine white binder, the kind you'd use for a wedding. Let that sink in. I put his betrayal into a wedding binder. Symbolism's a bitch. The next morning, he was all smiles, making coffee like we weren't living in two completely different realities. "Big day today, babe," he said, like nothing was wrong. "Tasting menu at the venue, right?" I stared at him. This man who had texted my sister at 1:13 a.m. the night before. "You looked incredible in that red dress. I still dream about that weekend in Charleston." Charleston! The bachelorette weekend I couldn't attend because I had work. I sent Claire in my place so she could represent me, make it special. Turns out she was doing a hell of a lot more than representing me. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Big day." I excused myself, went to get dressed, and locked the bathroom door behind me. Not to cry, but to rehearse. Because I had an outfit planned too. White, bridal white, the same sleek jumpsuit I wore when we signed our lease together. Fitting, since I'd be walking into a different kind of contract today. My lawyer's name is Evelyn, 49, sharp as glass and twice as cold. She's the kind of woman who doesn't waste words. And when I called her, voice shaking, she didn't coddle, just said, "Email me the screenshots, and wear something that makes you feel powerful." So I did. By noon, I had everything. the binder, the outfit, the NDA template she gave me to slide across the table when I walked in, and one very important piece of paper, the revocation of our joint lease, courtesy of my name being the only one legally listed on the property. Now, I needed a location, somewhere dramatic, somewhere meaningful, the restaurant. Of course it was a restaurant. They were meeting at this high-end Italian spot Dylan and I had once celebrated our anniversary at. He booked the same place. Same table, in fact. Probably thought he was being romantic. Full circle. More like full circus. Claire didn't know I'd seen the texts. Her voice when I called was nervous, but not apologetic. I'd expected guilt. Instead, I got, "Linz, it's not like that." And I didn't mean to feel things again. Again. So there had been feelings. There had been a past. And this wasn't some drunken mistake. It was a rekindling, a choice. At 7:58 p.m., I stepped out of my Uber in front of the restaurant, binder in hand, jumpsuit immaculate, heels clicking like gunshots on the pavement. Evelyn was already inside, sipping a martini at the bar like she was born for drama. 7:59. I spotted them. Claire, laughing, tossing her hair. Red lipstick, the same one she wore to our engagement shoot when she said she didn't want to outshine me. Liar. Dylan, looking nervous, like he knew on some level that karma was approaching. I waited until 8 p.m. exactly. Then I walked in, and the moment Claire saw me, her face went ghost white. "Hey sis," I said, and dropped the binder on the table with a thud. The whole restaurant went silent, like something in the air shifted the second that binder hit the table. Claire's mouth opened, but no words came out. Dylan's eyes were darting like he was trying to find the emergency exit. No one moved. I could hear the silverware clinking from a nearby table. Some poor couple's date night being dragged into our personal hell. "Linz," Claire finally managed, her voice all breath and no volume. "This isn't what it looks like." I laughed. Not just a chuckle. A full-bodied, bitter, "Can't believe you think I'm this stupid" laugh. "Oh, sweetheart," I said. "That's adorable. You think you're the first person to say that to me this week?" I turned to Dylan, who still hadn't spoken. "Say something," I said. "Go ahead. Tell me it was just dinner, that you just needed closure." His jaw clenched. "We didn't sleep together," he said quickly, like that somehow made him a saint. "Oh, I know," I replied, opening the binder to a very specific screenshot and flipping it around for them both to see. "Because according to you, you were saving it for the honeymoon." I used air quotes. I didn't care how unhinged I looked. I wanted them to see the crack in me, the one they made. Claire grabbed a napkin and dabbed at her lipstick like it mattered, like she could blot her way out of this. "You been planning this?" Dylan asked, his voice rising. "You ambushed us?" I stared at him, deadpan. "You plan to cheat on me with my sister, in the same restaurant where we celebrated our 2-year anniversary. Ambush doesn't really cover it, does it?" That's when Evelyn stood up from her seat at the bar and walked over, calm as ice. She dropped 2 sets of papers in front of them. "These are non-disclosure agreements," she said. "By signing, you agree not to post, share, or discuss any details of your relationship with each other or with Lindsay, online or elsewhere." Claire blinked. "Why would I sign that?" Evelyn didn't miss a beat. "Because I also represent Lindsay's event company. And if either of you think she's going to lose clients over your mess, think again. Legal protection. Your reputations are already trash. Let's not make it litigious." Dylan's face flushed. Claire started to tremble. "You can't do this," she whispered. "You can't ruin us like this." And I finally looked her in the eye. "You already ruined us," I said. "I'm just returning the favor." Then I leaned in. "You didn't just betray me, you took something from me I can't ever get back. My wedding, my sister, my future, so I hope the pasta's worth it." And I walked out. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. I could already feel the panic setting in behind me, their world tilting off its axis. And for the first time in days, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. But the real chaos? That hadn't even started yet. I thought it would feel final, walking out of that restaurant in white, binder in hand, their mouths still half open like fish gasping for air. But grief doesn't work like that. It's not cinematic. It doesn't wrap up in a perfect bow. Grief comes in waves. And after the adrenaline burned off, I crashed hard. I went home that night, curled up on the floor in my jumpsuit like I'd been dropped from a great height. The room was too quiet, the walls too clean. I kept staring at our wedding mood board still pinned to the cork wall. Photos of soft pink florals, Mr. and Mrs. calligraphy, Claire's smiling face next to mine in the bridal party section. I ripped it all down. I'm talking full meltdown. I tore the veil off its hanger, slammed the drawer shut on our saved vows. Even the little bride mug my maid of honor gave me for Christmas got launched across the room, shattering against the cabinet. I didn't stop until everything even hinting at that wedding was gone. Dead, like the future I thought I had. And here's where things took a turn. Because Claire had the audacity to show up the next morning. No warning, no text, just banged on the door until I opened it. hair wild, mascara smudged, and that fake-ass cardigan she always wore when she wanted to look soft. I didn't mean for it to go that far, she said before I could even speak. We were just talking. It felt safe, like a memory I could hold on to. I stared at her. You were sexting my fiancé. In a restaurant. That's not safe, Claire. That's premeditated. She actually started crying. Big, wet, mascara-dripping sobs. I didn't plan to fall for him again, she whispered. But I've always been second place, Linz. Always. You had the grades, the friends, the stable career, and then Dylan. She looked at me like I had stolen something. I laughed, bitter and low. So you decided to take him back? While helping me pick out a wedding dress? She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. You want to be second place, Claire? Congratulations. Because even after everything, he still chose me. You were his side dish. Her face cracked. I slammed the door in it, but it didn't stop there. The next day, Dylan called. 10 times, then 20. Then he started texting. I messed up. It didn't mean anything. She means nothing. Please just talk to me. I ignored him until he showed up outside my work. That's when it got ugly. He cornered me in the parking lot, waving his phone like a psycho, reading texts from Claire, begging me to believe he ended it. I picked you, he said, breathless. I never stopped picking you. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, you picked her first. You just didn't think I'd find out. And I walked away. But that's when he snapped. He started yelling, not just words, screaming, accusing me of ruining his life, telling me I was vindictive, that I'd manipulated him into proposing, that Claire wasn't the villain, and I needed to let this go before I lost everything. That's when security got involved. I had to file a formal report. That night, I got a call from an unknown number, Claire's boyfriend. Turns out, she was engaged too. I guess we had more in common than I thought, and that's when the revenge plan really started forming. Update 1. First of all, thank you, genuinely. I didn't expect this story to blow up the way it did, and I definitely didn't expect the sheer rage on my behalf. Some of y'all had me cackling with lines like, print the text on rice paper and make them eat it, and show up to the wedding in a white dress and read the vows to yourself. Iconic. Also, to whoever said, Claire's a Hobby Lobby villain and Dylan's the aisle display she stole. You deserve a Pulitzer. But seriously, reading your replies made me feel less alone, less crazy, and honestly, a little dangerous, in a good way. So, the update. After that parking lot meltdown, I got a very formal email from Dylan. Apology, of course, legal-sounding nonsense about miscommunication and regret. He even tried to guilt me by referencing the venue deposit like I'd wasted our future over a misunderstanding. I sent him back an invoice, with interest. Attached was a scanned copy of the NDA Evelyn gave me, labeled Final Chance. Then came Claire's fiancé. Yep, her actual fiancé, who, after I forwarded him the texts, went nuclear. Apparently, they'd been planning a wedding too. Not anymore. He posted a full photo dump on Facebook. Screenshots, receipts, a caption that began with, turns out my fiancé was auditioning for her sister's groom instead. Went viral in our town overnight. Claire's been radio silent since, but her fiancé? Oh, he and I are meeting for coffee this week. Just to talk. Anyway, the binder's not closed yet, because I have one last thing planned, and it's going to be public. Stay tuned. The coffee shop meetup wasn't supposed to feel like revenge, but the second Claire's ex-fiancé, Mark, walked in, I realized fate had a dark sense of humor. He was hot. Not just hot, calm hot. Clean jawline, button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled just enough. He looked like the kind of guy who fixed problems, not created them. A walking contrast to Dylan's chaos. He slid into the seat across from me, like we'd done this 100 times. I brought something, he said. A folder. Neat. Crisp. Inside were his screenshots. Claire's texts, the overlaps with Dylan's, the moments where she said she was still deciding between the two. She made us options, he said, almost smiling. Like a reality show. I laughed. But it wasn't a normal laugh. It was that hollow, we've lost our minds but we're still standing kind of laugh. We sat there trading stories, connecting dots, realizing just how many lies had piled up between us. Every timeline, every business trip that lined up, every bridal expo Claire had volunteered to attend for me while actually hooking up with my fiancé in another city. I'm done being quiet, I told him. Same, he said. So what now? I leaned forward. We give them a show. Here's the thing about planning events for a living. I know people, and I had connections at the venue Dylan and I had booked for the wedding. I called in a favor. The venue still had our deposit. The space was still reserved. And the guest list? Well, most people didn't know it was off yet, so I planned a new event. Same date, same time, same venue, different purpose. I called it the Unwedding. Everyone would be invited. Our families, our mutual friends, Claire's ex's people. Hell, I even invited Dylan's mom. She never liked me much, but I figured she deserved a front row seat. We sent out digital invites, No explanation. Just join us for a celebration. Dress code. White. Come ready for truth. The rumors flew fast. People thought it was a vow renewal, a joint elopement, some artsy performance piece. No one expected what actually happened. When I stepped onto the venue's patio in that same white jumpsuit, this time with a mic in hand, every eye turned, and I owned that silence. "Welcome," I said, "to what would have been my wedding." A gasp. Dylan's mom dropped her wine glass. I smiled. Instead, this is something better. A funeral for lies, a celebration of endings, and a beginning for the truth. And then Mark walked out with a projector remote, and we played everything. The texts, the photos, the video Dylan accidentally sent to the wrong contact. Me, bless his idiot heart. Claire saying, "She's so boring. He doesn't even look at her the way he looks at me." The crowd was dead silent. Then someone clapped. Then another. And then the whole patio broke into this weird, stunned applause. We ended it with a toast. "To dodged bullets and new beginnings," Mark said, raising his glass. "And to the people who made it really, really easy to walk away." Dylan and Claire didn't show up. But the video? It went viral by morning. They couldn't hide anymore. And me? I'd never felt more alive. I woke up the next morning to my phone buzzing like a swarm of hornets had taken over. Texts. DMS missed calls. The video had made it to TikTok, the full video. Turns out one of my bridesmaids had been filming the whole thing from her seat in the second row. She edited it with dramatic music, inserted captions like, "When your sister and fiancé betray you, so you host a public funeral for the relationship." And boom, 1.2 million views by breakfast. Someone in the comments called me the wedding terminator. Claire and Dylan were officially trending. By noon, they were hiding. Claire locked all her socials. Dylan deleted his Instagram. His work page scrubbed him from their site. Apparently, HR had questions about whether public character implosions made for good client trust. But the real storm? That came from inside their families. Claire's mom, my stepmom, called me sobbing. "I didn't know, Lindsay. I swear on my life if I had known." I believed her. Because honestly, Claire had always been two-faced about this kind of thing. Her whole life was performance. One side to the world, another in private. My dad, on the other hand, he said nothing. Radio silence. He'd always favored Claire, always said I was too intense, too sensitive, like emotions were something shameful. I think seeing me unravel the whole damn lie with a microphone and a smile broke his concept of who I was. Good. Let him sit in that silence. But then came the part I didn't expect. Dylan showed up at my house, 2 nights after the unwedding. It was 11:14 p.m. I'll never forget the time because I just turned off a podcast about emotional manipulation. Funny timing. I opened the door and there he was. Hoodie, baseball cap, hands in pockets like he was cold or ashamed or both. "I know I shouldn't be here," he said. "You're right," I replied. He paused. I don't know who I am without you." That hit me in a strange way. He wasn't here to apologize. He was here because he lost his safety net, because Claire bailed. Confirmed it the next morning when her ex-fiancé texted me a screenshot of her Tinder profile, already live. Classic. I told Dylan one thing before shutting the door. "You don't get to mourn me while still bleeding from the knife you used." And I locked it behind me. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I missed him, but because I felt empty. Like I'd burned down the house and now had to build something in its place. Then I got an idea. And it started with that white jumpsuit. Update 2. Let's talk about power, outfits, and poetic justice. Alright, so after everything blew up, a few of y'all messaged me asking what I did with the jumpsuit, the one I wore to the unwedding and the confrontation dinner. Some said frame it. Some said burn it like a ritual. One person said auction it for charity and use the money to fund therapy for women with trash exes. Genius, honestly. But here's what I actually did. I started a project. I took that white jumpsuit, the shattered mug, the binder of texts, and a single rose from what would have been my bouquet, and I made an art installation. I called it White Lies. Local gallery picked it up for a women-led showcase on emotional labor and betrayal. I didn't expect the response. People cried in front of it, left letters. A woman told me it helped her walk out on a cheating fiancé she'd been too scared to confront. That broke me, in a good way. The wedding I planned wasn't a waste. It became something bigger. I turned my heartbreak into art, into fire, into a mirror for other women who've been told to be the bigger person. Guess what? I was. And now, I'm starting over. Fiercely, unapologetically. Still in white, still standing, and no one gets to dull me down to stable ever again. It's wild how quickly life shifts when you stop asking for permission to be angry. After the exhibit went viral, yeah, it got picked up by a few feminist blogs and even a write-up in a local arts magazine, I started getting emails, women asking for advice, men confessing they'd seen themselves in Dylan, people thanking me for turning my pain into something they could see and feel. One email stood out. It was from a woman named Marta. She wrote, "Your story cracked something open. I was going to marry a man who made me feel convenient. Now I'm moving out. Thank you for showing me that destruction can be sacred." I cried. Real, shoulder-shaking tears. Not because I was sad, but because I wasn't alone anymore. I hadn't just survived it. I'd made it mean something. But the universe wasn't done testing me yet. Because Dylan, of course, couldn't let it go. I got a call from a block number. Let it go to voicemail. It was his mother. "My son may have made mistakes," she said, her voice clipped and shaking, "but you've humiliated him. The internet is forever. He lost his job, his apartment. You've ruined his life over a rough patch." A rough patch, as if betraying your fiancé with her sister is the emotional equivalent of a fender bender. She ended with, "You should be ashamed of yourself." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. Ashamed? I'd been ashamed for years. For not being the exciting one. For not catching the red flags sooner. For doubting my worth every time Dylan sighed when I talked about work, or lit up when Claire entered the room. No more. So I called her back. "Hi, Diane. Just wanted to let you know that your son's humiliation, he earned every second of it. And if you're uncomfortable watching him face consequences, maybe you should ask yourself why." Then I blocked her. But that call did something to me. It made me realize I wasn't just healing. I was becoming dangerous, in the best way. The kind of woman who can't be guilt-tripped, who knows her own power, who answers disrespect with silence. Or fire. And since Dylan wanted to talk about reputations, I gave him something to really talk about. I submitted the entire saga, anonymized but unmistakable, to a podcast I adore. True breakup stories, betrayals, resilience. They called the episode Hotter But Stable. Within a week, it hit #3 on Spotify. People heard his words. "You're more stable." The way he said it like a compliment, the way I read it back like a eulogy. I got messages from strangers all over the country. He got memed. Claire? She reached out again, not to apologize, to ask me to take the episode down. "It's affecting my job interviews," she wrote. I sent her a link to the NDA she never signed and told her, "Actions have consequences, sis. Turns out your bikini body doesn't make you bulletproof." Revenge, it turns out, is better served cold and crowdsourced. I used to wonder what healing looked like. Not the Instagram version, candles and bubble baths and self-love in scripted font, but the real thing, the kind where your chest doesn't tighten every time you hear their name, where you stop rehearsing what you'd say if you saw them again. Now I know. Healing looks like a packed gallery space on a Friday night, watching people walk past your story printed in black and white. It looks like a 19-year-old girl gripping your hand after reading your text displayed on a wall, whispering, "I didn't know it was okay to leave." Healing looks like laughing, really laughing, for the first time in months. Not because you're pretending you're okay, but because you are. Because someone cracked a dumb joke about how stable is the new sexy, and suddenly, it's just funny. It's not a wound anymore. It's a scar. And I earned every inch of it. Claire moved to another city, started over. I wish I could say I feel nothing about that, but the truth? I feel relief, not spite, just the weight of her absence is lighter than the weight of her presence ever was. Dylan tried again. Of course he did. One last email. "I'm in therapy now. I've changed. I realize what I lost." I didn't respond. Because what he lost wasn't just me, it was access to my empathy, my forgiveness, my silence. He can't touch any of that anymore. Instead, I poured everything into my new venture, a workshop for women called After the Fire. It's not about breakups. It's about rebuilding, about learning that you don't have to be cool or easygoing or the bigger person to be worthy of love. That stable doesn't mean boring. It means strong. The first session sold out in 36 hours. Someone asked if I'd ever love again. Here's the truth. I already do. I love who I've become. The woman who walked into a restaurant in white, holding proof instead of pain, who stood on a patio and told the truth with a microphone, who took betrayal and built something louder, stronger, unforgettable. Claire was hotter. I was stable. But in the end, I was undeniable.